Welcome to Body Kindness. I'm Rebecca Scritchfield, creator of the Body Kindness Philosophy book and audiobook. I'm here to help you create a better life by reinventing health from the body oppressive, shaming, and you'll never be enough type of mindset to positive and joyful ways that you can spiral up your energy, mood, and your well-being at any size, shape, or weight, and as you are right now. Get started for free at bodykindnessbook.com/start. That's the sound of me smashing a stack of scales in front of some friends. And I have to say that breaking up with the scale and all the other ways I was judging, monitoring, and measuring my worth was absolutely pivotal in my life. Creating the body kindness philosophy and letting myself be a human being again helped me become a better mom, a better clinician, and a happier and healthier person. I believe we all have a right to decide how we want to care for ourselves, and I think we all need support in figuring out what that looks like. You don't have to do this alone. There's a whole community of like-minded people who are fed up with diets, who are embracing intuitive eating, and who are completely redefining their lives from body shame to body kindness. You are not broken. Our culture is. Find your inner caregiver and create a better life with body kindness.
I am in the heart of our country's pandemic. I'm a mother of 5 children, 2 of which were away at college and are now home doing online classes, and 3 other that were in the school district. So I'm home working, and the kids are all home doing their online classes. And my mom actually has been in ICU for 14 days on a ventilator out on Long Island. And we're unable to visit with her. I think that's probably the hardest part, not being able to be there to hold her hand.
That was Lara Loverro. She's a certified health coach and certified intuitive eating counselor. She's also certified as an eating disorder recovery coach and a certified personal trainer. She can be reached on social media at Instagram at Lara Loverro. That's LARALOVERRO. And her website is laraloverro.com. Both of those links are going to be in the show notes. Folks, I have to say that I feel a tremendous amount of gratitude for Lara and her strength and her willingness to have a conversation with me about coping with your anxiety during COVID-19. Because as you're going to hear, she is going through pretty much a living hell right now based on a number of factors. And I honestly don't know how she said yes, but I am really grateful that she was willing to engage with that helping professional side of herself and the caring mother and caring daughter side of her to be really honest about what is happening with her and her family, and also how you can help yourself no matter what is going on with your thoughts and feelings and worries, no matter how you're being triggered by this collective trauma that we're all facing. So from the bottom of my heart, I wish you peace and loving kindness. And I hope that this conversation makes you feel supported, less alone. I hope it makes you feel some sense of hope and confidence that all the things that you're thinking and feeling are valid right now, and that what you are doing day to day, minute to minute, is a valuable part of your body kindness practice. Hey, Lara, welcome to Body Kindness.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful to be talking to you in particular. I've been talking a lot about how we're all getting through COVID-19 and practicing body kindness. And, we've talked about, just the stress of it all and worries that people have and how self-care plans can be really helpful in dealing with our, thoughts and fears. And, the reality of it is that there's all different types of anxieties that are being triggered through this. And, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. And I think that no matter how we're all reacting to it, because we have a right to our own responses, that it is going to be particularly beneficial to talk to you about anxiety and coping with our anxieties through COVID-19 because of some experiences you've been having with it. And it was funny. I was getting ready this morning and I was like, how is she saying yes to even doing this with me right now? Seriously, I was like, I can't believe she said yes. And I'm so grateful because I think it's one of those things that people are going to be so grateful that you're giving so much of yourself and your honest experiences. So I just want to thank you in advance.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And actually, helping others kind of helps me through this experience as well.
Yeah. Well, I really hope that you find that this participation is meaningful, and I really do believe that by doing it, you're going to help a lot of other people. But before we get into that, let's talk about you and the work that you do with people.
Okay. So I am a certified health coach, as well as a certified intuitive eating counselor, a certified eating disorder coach, and a certified personal trainer. And I basically work with individuals to bring what I call sanity and peace around their eating and their fitness.
Mm-hmm. Because usually they're kind of messed up into diet culture.
Messed up in diet culture, messed up in fat phobia, messed up in lots of our cultural norms about food, right? And all that confusing information out there. And as well as with exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's hard to disentangle all of it,
Mm-hmm.
Changing is really hard. I think that if we actually said upfront more, a lot of what's marketed is and do this effortlessly. I mean, I even talk about effortless stuff in body kindness. Find, small, smart, and swift. Find the effortless thing. And it's actually true, right? The more effortless you can make something, the more likelihood that you will approach it and try it. And then your brain will learn and grow, So yes, there's that science behind it, but you know what I mean, right? We always talk, it's oh, just do this. It'll be so effortless. And actually changing is one of the hardest things that people will attempt, especially when you're going against the norms of what does it mean to take care of yourself with food and movement and sleep and all those other things.
Absolutely. And my number one thing that I encourage lots of clients to do is kind of find their authentic desire with every aspect of their life.
Mm.
And really trying to get in tune with what their authentic desires are that brings them fulfillment, rather than listening to external pressure from society and culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Skills that we all need to build and work on forever. That's the other thing I'm sure your clients ask you. So when am I going to be done?
Exactly.
Never.
Never. Exactly. And
that's interesting too, right? Because if we didn't see ourselves as a project to accomplish, and finish anyway, then maybe we wouldn't have this desire to be done. I think what really we're asking for is much more peace in our lives, more peace, more confidence, more satisfaction and happiness with where we're at. and maybe more peace with our minds, as opposed to just being done like there's nothing else new to learn.
100%.
So I got to say, and then also, right, listeners
Mm-hmm.
should know that you and I have been working together on like body kindness, like professional mentorship for,
Yep.
We're rounding into our second year.
Exactly.
And, I have to say, I always knew that we would talk about something. I never in a million years thought that you and I would be talking about anxiety, though.
Exactly. Yes.
I thought we'd talk about intuitive eating, right? Or like
Right.
raising kids, something else. But the universe has called us to connect over coping with anxiety during COVID-19 because you actually have lived experience. You have a COVID-19 story. And I wanted to ask if you would share your story with the listeners today.
Sure. So I am a resident of Westchester County in New York. So I am in the heart of our country's pandemic. I'm a mother of 5 children, 2 of which were away at college and are now home doing online classes, and 3 other that were in the school district. So I'm home working, and the kids are all home doing their online classes. And my mom actually has been in ICU for 14 days on a ventilator out on Long Island. And we're unable to visit with her. I think that's probably the hardest part, not being able to be there to hold her hand. But she's on a ventilator in an induced coma. When she first went in, the hospitals weren't as crowded as they are now, but they're getting more crowded. We get 1 phone call a day. In fact, strangely enough, the phone calls keep getting later and later each day. I think just because the hospitals keep getting more crowded, and the physicians and nurses just have so many patients to take care of. And it's just day to day with her. It's gotten to a point where we might have to make a decision to have her do a tracheotomy because they keep trying to wean her off the ventilator and she's not responding very well. Mm-hmm. I also have a son that's dealing with a lot of anxiety. I worry about him. I can't really bring him to, he wants to go to the hospital, and I can't bring him to the hospital. He wants to go talk to his pediatrician, and the pediatricians aren't really available to help. And I think I had shared with Rebecca, it's gotten to a point here in New York that you always had trusted that if someone needed to go to the hospital, 2 things: that they would get proper health care, right? Mm-hmm. And that you'd be able to go with them. And right now what we're seeing in New York is a lot of virtual doctor visits, and if you do happen to need to go to the hospital, you go by yourself, no matter your age. It's hard with the kids at home, and even my husband. I'm worried that in the middle of the night someone's going to wake up and they're going to be sick, or they're going to have signs of having the virus. And every day when we wake up, I just pray that it's another day that we're all healthy and don't need to access the healthcare, because all the healthcare providers are working so hard here in New York. And it's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a really different time here.
Mm-hmm. So a couple things. So just to make it really clear for listeners. Mm-hmm. So your mom is COVID-19 positive and 14 days
Correct.
on a ventilator.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, not just being regionally in the area, but having an immediate family member who you can't visit and support, and then having, all the shifts going on with your own kids at home. And then so your anxiety is showing up and worrying about your mom, who you can't hold her hand, and uncertainty about, how she's going to get through this. And,
correct.
And then your kids, and just sort of, like you said, like you you wake up and you're, use the word worry, which is sort of on the spectrum of course, the stress that you feel and the worry that you have is important energy because you care very deeply about your family and your family getting through this.
Mm-hmm.
And, so the worry about, is everybody okay? Do we have our health? And then sort of like the what ifing of, well, if something was wrong, what would be our plan? Because it's not normal now these days.
Absolutely.
Right. And so some of that keeps you organized as a parent to do the hard parent things, right?
Yeah.
But then your son, you mentioned your son with anxiety. You mentioned him wanting to go to the hospital and go to the pediatrician. So you identified him as having anxiety. Has he been seen medically and said, yes, this is anxiety, and he still wants to go? Does he want to go to the hospital to see his grandma? Does he want to go to the hospital for himself? Why does he want to go to the pediatrician? Like, what's going on with him and his anxiety?
So he's worried that he has COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
I have brought him in. In fact, once they closed schools, I believe he had a panic attack. I visually saw the difference in him physically. That night, I did bring him to urgent care. And since then, I have taken him to see his pediatrician. But it's at the point where, unless he develops any other signs, it's better for us to just try to manage it here at home, which is what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And so I wonder if this is a good time to kind of start to talk about whether it's like we talk about him and some of his experiences, like what he's feeling physically in his body, or, we could use just any kind of person, right? But to get into a conversation about the connection of anxiety in the body. So is it okay if we kind of talk about his chest pains and different things that he's feeling?
Absolutely. So Eli, my son, experiences chest pains. At times he says they're constant. At times he says they're sharp. Seems to be exacerbated more by, unfortunately, physical activity. Now, he definitely is an athlete. He's a football player. And some of the ways that with just normal teenage anxiety was working out, but that seems to maybe exasperate the physical feelings he's having because of the anxiety. Because I think that it's just starting to become really overwhelming to him. His new sensation is that he feels as if his throat is starting to close. He's feeling a need to cough, although he doesn't cough. So it's almost like a tightening in his throat. He is starting to do a lot of crying. One of the things I'm trying now to work with him on, which I think, Rebecca, you can relate to, is he's talking more about the physical sensations that are going on in his body due to anxiety, where I want to start to get him to process his feelings about other things, his feelings about his grandmother being in the hospital, his feelings about not being able to see his girlfriend, his feelings about not being able to go to the gym at the high school and see his friends and work out and talk to his football buddies, like kind of all the life changes that has dramatically happened to him in less than even a month. I feel as if maybe if I can get him to start opening up and talking more about those feelings, it might make the physical sensations of the anxiety, might help it a little bit.
Yeah. I definitely think so. I mean, the thing, our mind and body are connected, right? And so that was, when we first started talking about how we might, kind of help him make sense of what's happening, because one of his first things was like, like I think I have COVID-19, right? Like I'm having a heart attack or I have these pains in my lungs. So you feel these things in your body. And it's kind of like first knowing, well, what is actually happening, right? When I am feeling overwhelmed, when my body is showing these symptoms. And so, I think in breaking it down, it really helps to understand that there's a part of our brain that, the amygdala, these two little almonds in the back, right? They're the part of the brain that is not thinking about anything at all, is only reacting. It's reacting to this trauma that we're in, not just collectively, on this planet, right? But specific to the region where you guys are, specific to your family unit and all his losses, right? That he's likely not yet grieving can be what is showing up in as anxiety trigger, right? But his fear, and then having, his grandma with COVID-19, like that's all. I mean, the bucket is overflowing, it's too much for anyone to be able to typically manage with our day-to-day stress tools. The overwhelm button is going to get hit. And so when this happens, that the fight or flight from the amygdala, the cortex, the thinking part kind of takes what is actually happening and says, yeah, you really should keep this panic up. You should be afraid. And it's using the lived experiences as examples to say there is a real danger here. And so what it has to do with is when he gets lost in his thinking, right, which can start out rationally, but then quickly downward spiral into what ifs and catastrophizing type thoughts. If the thinking pattern goes unchecked, it basically the cortex and the amygdala work together to say, stay worried, stay afraid. And when that cycle is happening, right, the vagus nerve is just trying to do its job, right? So this runs from the crown of our head to our gut. And anyone who's ever said, I have a gut feeling and I need to go to the bathroom now, right? Like that is literally the vagus nerve that is trying to get you, to pee, poop. Sometimes it creates nausea because it wants you to get rid of what you have and it wants you to run from the tiger. It's just our tiger's COVID-19 and it's chasing us until it decides it's not chasing us anymore. We actually don't have the ability to control the time, in that classic sense of the threat. We got away quickly and that stress was over in minutes or we didn't make it, right? But it was short and quick. And this is completely extended, right? That is what makes it really different. But this vagus nerve, it is literally increasing the heart rate, increasing the blood pressure, it giving him these symptoms that he's experiencing. And because of what he knows about COVID, that's why he feels things in his lungs. I asked him when I talked to him and I said, well, what if COVID showed up in your liver? And he's like, I bet you I'd feel it in my liver. Like he was very attuned, right? Very attuned that like he feels rationally that where he's feeling the pain is related to what he's reading and what he knows. And so when you brought up his throat constriction, so vagus nerve will constrict your throat. But isn't it interesting, right, that dry cough is an early symptom and he's feeling the need to cough, if he's dealing with this day-to-day anxiety and now the pain moves. And that's something else that we've talked about. And when you're feeling anxiety, your pain can move like that. And so it's very much saying, look, that tightness you're feeling, that is a real tightness. That is happening to you. You're not making it up. That cough you need to have is a real cough and you're not making that up either. And the overwhelm that you're feeling, that your body is feeling because of the emotional distress that you're in is part of this cycle. It's, it's what's your body is actually working, even though you feel like your body is in the most distress you've ever felt. It's actually working to try to help you with the threats. It's just that without a trustworthy, reliable self-care plan through the anxiety, which begins with even knowing how anxiety works and that everything that's happening is normal, without practicing those plans, it just creates even more and more downward spirals. What are your thoughts and feelings around that?
I 100% agree with you. And You know, you talk about upward spirals and downward
Mhm.
spirals. I can see when he's spiraling upward, and I can actually notice when he's starting to spiral downward. And it's just kind of uh, being there to support him um, on continuing the upward spiral versus the downward spiral.
Mhm. Well, I do think, having this ability to connect to our body is a fundamental important thing, right? Because first, our stress is what's wrong with me, right? So our mind says, this is bad and I can't handle this, right? What we hope our minds can say is, this is bad and I have what it takes to handle this, or I have what it takes to get what I need to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
But the anxiety brain will go to like if we had to put words to it, here comes the tsunami, I can't handle this. And that is going to keep that cycle going where you will feel those, you know, like waves, right? Like waves of anxiety. And you talked about like spiral ups and maybe these positive moments. And it very much does come like waves. It might come at a certain time of day. It might come unpredictably, depending on how tired you feel or how much time you've spent thinking about the state of the world or what's happening in your life, or looking on social media to stay connected. And then you're going to see an article. And then that one article leads to 5 more articles because you feel like you can't help yourself. And you think that information will calm you down, but information can actually incite more and more fear as well, which also keeps you in a cycle. And,
Correct.
it's interesting because I always feel like a total sham. Like when the next thing I say is, and so what do we do next? We take a deep breath. Like, it's like my inner monitor right now is saying like, don't be an asshole. Don't say take a deep breath right now. Like, how many breaths does it actually take to get so that he's in his classroom? COVID's gone. His grandma's back home, like to solve all these problems. Like, you don't get through these big problems. It's not like deep breaths or warm showers or, a gentleness with yourself. It's not like those things solve like the big problems that are at the root really bothering you. And at the same time, the reality is everybody is breathing. And if you have the ability to regulate your breath, everything else in the emotion regulation system will eventually fall in line. And so it becomes this thing of what the new normal is. I have a high amount of distress, and so me starting my mornings with guided breath meditation will, first of all, prove that I do have the ability to regulate my breathing. I have the ability to place my hands on my heart and say, it's really hard to be here right now. And, I'm going to get through this. I have what it takes, right? To cultivate a sense of optimism, not to ignore all the truths are still there. It's yes, these are true, and it's hard to be here, and it's okay to be here. And I trust that I have tools, and my breath is a tool. And when you practice the ability to breathe, and you'll see that, the heart rate does slow down. You feel more calm just touching skin to skin. So it's not about the expectation that breathing is magically going to solve everything, but it's this idea of when you can radically accept, I've got anxiety related to COVID, and that is okay. How do I care for myself through this? Fundamentally, the answer is going to be starting with bringing it down to breathing basics. Because if you could even count in your mind, inhale 6, exhale 6, for any length of time, when you are counting numbers in your mind, it is really hard for the brain to also think, I can't handle this, and what if, and worries. They'll come in as soon as you're done breathing, they'll come back around. But even those moments of feeling that regulation and noticing, wow, my heart rate does feel gentle. Where do I feel pain in my body right now when I'm breathing in this slow and regulated way? And you might feel pain, or you might not, you might notice a lack of pain. But the point is that you are noticing and you are attuning into your body, and your vagus nerve is learning that it can turn on the relaxation side of things again. So as much as it triggers the alertness to get away from the lion, it also triggers the calm, right? And the relaxing place. And so, yeah, like I said, I feel like an absolute loser saying, just breathe your way through this, because it sounds so frivolous. And yet it is something that we can control.
Yep. Absolutely.
What would you say your thoughts are on like the idea of like breath and emotion regulation? Like, I'm curious about like for yourself right now and as a mother, and how you guys are talking about it. And then even if you have any insight from just like client reactions too, right? Because we don't always get people believing us when we talk about this stuff.
Right. I mean, for one, I can tell you I've been doing a lot of deep breathing. Even just on this call with you now, I feel myself breathing in, nice deep breaths, and breathing out. And it does help to relax me and to calm me. One of the things I notice about my son is his breathing does seem different, meaning he seems to be holding his breath, right? And when he's having a bad moment or he's getting himself worked up, you can definitely sense that he's holding his breath and he's not breathing. And when we sit there and we do breathing and breath work, it does help him to both mentally and physically relax. It does help to calm him, and he physically does feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can feel hard to breathe, almost like I'm taking a deep breath, but why does it feel like I'm only filling my lungs like 20%? Or like we talked about, does it feel like you're drinking through this long straw with this narrow opening, that it's like, here I am sucking air, like, but I can't get a full breath. And so it's very, you feel like you have to put a lot of energy into breathing, and the breathing is very shallow. It doesn't feel complete like a relaxed breath would.
Or natural, right?
Yeah. 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 And so also interesting, we've talked about the connection between exercise and anxiety. And so, and there is a connection for moving for its inherent value, and, like for, doing exercises that you like, that you find joy in, that you can do during, quarantine, but that his urges to exercise, and there are actually a lot of people's urges who I've worked with anxiety. It's like you feel this tense energy, and so you think you need to go and like blow it out, like you're in 2-a-days in football, right? Like because you feel tense, you think you need tense. And actually, while exercise is good for anxiety, it's actually more of the slower, gentler type of exercises that help you regulate your anxiety better. So if somebody's used to running, going on a walk to maybe with some slower jog intervals, like less intense, where your heart doesn't have to work as strong or hard because it's already fatigued from the anxiety, and you'll almost feel like you can't complete workouts that you used to be able to complete. Or I know he and I started talking about doing some yoga, some short yoga videos that would maybe more connect breath to posture and movement that still incorporate elements of challenge or strength, but in a way that was, trying to manage that intensity of exercise as well.
Correct. And that's a wonderful point. Even with myself, I am a runner, but I go out now and I walk when I feel like walking. I jog when I feel like jogging. And it's just really out. I just go out to relax myself, whether rather than feeling like I need to get this like amazing intense workout in, because that's what my body needs right now. I also I give myself days off. I mean, I'll go a day or two because I'm just not up for it, and my body's calling for more rest than
Mhm.
for physical exercise. Now that doesn't mean that I'm not active through, during the day in the house and with the kids. But if I'm just not feeling up to going out for that run, I don't put that pressure on myself, and that seems to help. And same thing with Eli. I think he's starting to understand that maybe more staying active, but not putting pressure on himself to do strenuous types of workout, and trying yoga, which he actually did do. It was very cute to see him do it, is probably more what his body needs right now.
Yeah. And I think that having that sense of openness to, again, if it starts with, okay, I want to understand and make sense of anxiety and why it shows up, and that it makes sense. Like, gosh, my body is working. It's working. It's trying to help me through a real trauma that I'm in the middle of, and you can develop this gratitude and connection to it, and also understand that there are unhelpful elements, right? So it's like, when I don't have a self-care plan at all, right? Then my days are kind of all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I put in my self-care plan that I'm going to limit my TV and social media exposure to the news, and then all of a sudden I spend 45 minutes looking at that stuff, and then I don't feel good after, like, as you start to learn and see the different connections, like you really can home in on, all right, this is what I need right now. Loads of sleep, loads of compassion for myself, those morning meditations, you know, maybe variability in daily movement. Like, if I want outdoor fresh air and can do that safely, that could look like a walk with mom, and that you guys are getting the fresh air and that your body is feeling, moving energy and feeling some amount of movement. And it's not the type of intense that's just going to put even more stress on a body that is, at this time constantly under distress. Certainly the yoga elements that we talked about, and is there anything you're doing in the family as far as like meals and eating patterns or anything like that at all? Like, are you sticking to what you would have always been doing as a family? Or I guess because you have some kids who are home now, maybe it's, are there bright spots and joyful moments around food and family? What's happening there?
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny. All five kids are kind of like they've all um, come up with kind of their daily routine that works for them.
Mm-hmm.
So some are early risers, some are late risers. So um, they're kind of on their own routine, but we do make sure we've gotten into this routine that dinner time, and we've always had dinner together, but dinner time now is actually at 6:30 every night. And I think that time to know that all seven of us are going to sit down and check in and have that family meal together and spend time talking and laughing has really helped all of us. And that doesn't mean that, I mean, there's sometimes where there's four of us having lunch together or five of us having, but like one wakes up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon because that's just the routine they're on. They're not ready to eat. So we kind of let them throughout the day do their thing and go along with their the daily routine that they created for themselves. But we all are sitting down at 6:30 and
Mm-hmm.
having dinner together, and it's nice. No one seems to be arguing that. They seem to all be welcoming it. And then I've been trying to like figure out games we all can play together. We played Texas Hold'em one day. I started a Jenga bracket. So like we're competing with each other playing Jenga, and the winner plays so we do brackets. So two of them will play, and the winner of that one plays the winner of the other two. So I'm trying to keep like games going. Next is going to be our ping pong tournament, and just things to kind of give them to do to keep their spirits up and keep us all laughing in the house. Because to me, laughing is key.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought that up. That permission to have laughter, happy moments, to feel joy and let it come in, through and during the difficulty is actually part of how we get through it, and is much more along the path of post-traumatic growth, which I believe you and your family will experience. And, it's this idea that nobody's saying, oh, I'm so glad COVID happened. Like that's not what post-traumatic growth. It's not about being grateful for what happened, but it's having a sense of gratitude because you understand that what happened did fundamentally change you. And whether that's individuals in your family noticing fundamental changes or, a shift in family values that had it not happened, that shift might not have
correct,
shown up.
Mm-hmm.
And, without question, the way that we get stronger is through big, painful difficulties in life. It's just, I don't think, save for a few, scientists who have been following SARS and everything for forever, there's very, very few people on this planet who had any sort of predictions about where we're at right now.
Exactly.
I know that we started kind of talking about self-care measures and emotion regulation measures. And I know that like you had a list of things that you wanted to recommend too. And I'm not sure if we want to kind of look at that list and either it's revisit things that have come up, but see if there's other things that we might not have spent enough time kind of listing and then talking about what folks can do. But I would love to spend some time doing that.
Okay. So we did gently focus on limiting our media consumption, taking breaks from watching, reading, or listening to news stories on social media, because hearing about the pandemic repeatedly can be very upsetting. One of my big things that I've been feeling lately is the importance of not isolating and starting to share your feelings. One of the things, when I was talking to Eli yesterday, I said, Eli, have you talked to any of your friends about this? And as a teenage boy, right, 17, I think it's hard for particularly boys to share their feelings with other friends and to find someone he can trust to share his concerns with, but someone that is, his peer. So I'm encouraging him to do that, but I encourage everyone to kind of connect with their loved ones and others who may be experiencing the same type of stress. And, definitely a person you trust, and ask them how they're feeling and share how you're feeling. And whether it's by phone, texting, FaceTime, Zoom, I think that's very important for us to share our feelings and not keep everything inside.
And we know from working with clients, right? The classic line our clients tell themselves is, I have no needs. Don't bother that person. They have enough on their plate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which to your point actually puts the person much more on isolation island because you're just continuing to believe that your needs don't matter. And 100% feel your feelings, even if you feel that you should not feel those feelings, right? We kind of self-monitor,
Yeah.
other people have it worse, or I should be strong, especially boys and men, right? I am strong and I'm powerful. And, his social expectation is don't show emotion.
Correct.
The same way for females, all about being thin and nice to people, right? For men, it's do not show emotion. Right now, his lack of permission to show emotion that was culturally ingrained, right, is part of what makes the anxiety overwhelming, right? Being shut off from feelings. So that's, great that I know I'm sure is not only mom intuition, but just with you and the work that you do with people. You have to feel, you have to say, humans, we all need each other. And maybe, we don't need everybody. We don't need to connect with everybody, but we do need to connect with somebody. And we need the time and space to be able to say what we're thinking and feeling, even if we're hearing a voice in the back that says, oh, you shouldn't bother. Oh, kind of invalidating what's happening for us.
Correct. And it's okay to allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We talked about laughter. We touched on that. The funny thing is, the kids have introduced my husband and I to TikTok.
Ah!
And I have to say, Scott's more into it than I am, but he's finding these funny videos, and he's literally the other day, woke up and he's lying in bed and he's hysterical laughing in bed over these stupid TikTok videos. And I'm like, I'm not even laughing because they're that funny. I'm laughing because you're laughing. It's he and I were in the bedroom really laughing together, and the way that just that feeling of laughter and just you wake up that way and you're laughing, or you just find things to laugh about. And TikTok, I'm like, oh my God, these people are so funny. And the kids introduced it. We would have never been on TikTok besides right now. Right?
Yeah. My sister-in-law, we're using an app called Marco Polo.
Okay.
And our family, we have family in West Virginia, family in Las Vegas, family in California, family in Ohio. And so our family, we have kind of two different threads. So one is the siblings from my parents, and then the siblings from Andy's parents and his parents. And,
right.
and we do things on both groups, but Andy's sister is into TikTok, showed it to my little girls, so 7 and 5.5. So she has pets. We do not have pets. So she is posting this Marco Polo app. Basically, you can record little videos and it just stays private in your little group, and then you can watch it in your own time. And so she's doing TikToks of conversations between her pets, and they are so freaking hilarious. And my kids are dying. And I was like, thank goodness that Aunt Katie is making these. I do not know TikTok, and I know that I should, but it's thank goodness she's doing that, because it is giving my kids so much laughter.
Right.
And it's necessary. Literally that lightness feeling comes in your body from laughing. It's one of the deepest breaths you could take through laughter.
Yep.
And so, yeah. And I think it's that it's possible to feel complex emotions. It's possible to know that, yep, it's another day of quarantine and uncertainty. We don't know when the end of this marathon and this, frankly, nightmare is going to end. / in this moment, I can have a fleeting emotion of happiness and joy and peace and calm. And in fact, that can be very healing to my distress and my anxiety.
Right. We talked about creating a personal self-care menu, or a personal menu of self-care activities that you personally enjoy. That's really big for me, where we talk about, you could read, oh, you should exercise, or, oh, you should go outdoors, or, oh, read a book, or, oh, what. But it's important for us to just things that make me feel more relaxed, things that provide me self-care might not necessarily be what would provide my son with self-care or you with self-care, but to have a menu of things that that you can do that enjoy and relax you, I think is very beneficial at this time.
I had something happen on Saturday, And I had a few clients that I was planning to see virtually and everything, but it was just this unexplainable, like my mood was like in the gutter basically. And I remember I was going to like do that change of winter to spring clothes or whatever, like just keep myself busy with something. Like that was the plan. And I was like, yeah, no, like that sounds like, torture right now. So like, no, that doesn't have to be done. But it was like I couldn't identify. Like I had a book that I was looking forward to read, but that wasn't it either. And I found myself just sitting in this room, and we called our music room. It's where my husband will like his stress relief, whereas mine is yoga, his is playing guitar. And we have a piano and the girls are learning piano. And I just sat there and I was just hitting piano keys and just there's these like little notes that I need to learn and helping my daughters in piano. And I was just sitting there and I was not expecting what I was doing to change my mood, but it was just something that my mind felt like it could focus on so that I wouldn't continue to ruminate on, like just like I have permission to feel my feels and I have permission to feel low and I have permission to not, for me, it was like, I don't want to accomplish anything else today. I just want to get to a reasonable bedtime and things that I might typically find interesting just weren't. And so I just add that to say that, yes, we have our self-care plans of the things that typically bring us interest. And if you have a particular low moment and you're thinking of those things and you're looking at your list and none of it sounds good, it is okay to be with those emotions and not expect much out of yourself. Like pouring a drink of water, maybe pay attention to the sounds that it's making. And that's not a frivolous activity. That is something that's occupying your brain. Like I said, playing notes on the piano, it was occupying my brain. Sometimes it is, you ask yourself, what's the next manageable choice that I can make that sounds like self-care? And my poor husband, he was like, I know, let's do a Marco Polo and we'll take requests and we'll do family band night. And I'm, and then he's like playing, because I like the Bare Naked Ladies, and he's playing Brian Wilson on his guitar. Like he's totally, all but juggling. You could tell he was trying to cheer me up.
Right.
And I just didn't react to anything. And I would just breathe and just gently let myself exist, knowing that the emotions were valid and real and would pass. And I think what's relevant about unraveling that and spending time on it is that I wanted my typical self-care things to work. Like my closet's still disorganized. I wish I had it in me to do it on Saturday, and it just didn't happen. And how do you say, hey, it's okay that you did not do that thing? It wasn't the right time and that wasn't an urgent task. And just keep kind of lowering the bar for yourself, I think is what I want to say to that.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is it's okay just to be right.
Yeah.
It's okay to just be.
Yeah. That is an achievement, right?
Exactly. That is like an achievement right now. And it's okay. It's just okay to just be.
Mm-hmm.
For me, also, just creating some level of a daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
I get up every morning still and I put the blinds up and I make the beds and I go in and make sure all the kids' blinds are up and their beds are made. So that there's some level of, showering, getting dressed when I'm ready, not right away, but so there's some level of just a routine of, of normalcy, as much normalcy as we can create right now within the home, right? Because that's where we are right now. We're home.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with the, family dinner at 6:30. So some level of like a daily routine, I feel, has been helpful for me.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And then the one thing we have not talked about, which you kind of helped both Eli and me with, is sleep. That, we were all kind of walking around saying, I don't understand. We're getting so much more rest and sleep than we normally get. Why are we feeling tired?
Mhm.
And you helped Eli. And I think that was a big question for Eli because his feeling fatigue also made him anxious. Like, why am I
Mhm.
feeling so tired? Does that mean I'm sick?
Mhm.
One of the underlying symptoms of COVID-19 is an extreme level of fatigue.
Mhm.
And you helped him understand that when you are under stress and when you are under anxiety and when you're having an inability to calm and to relax more than you normally are, you will feel more fatigue, and that getting better sleep and promoting better sleep is very, very beneficial during this time.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
we
that's
even talked about that there's a real reality that even if you don't remember it, that you're likely dreaming about it
right.
because that's what
Hmm.
the brain does at night. It filters through, you know, what's been going on. And so it could even mean that there's anxiety interfering with your sleep. For some, it will wake you up. You'll come out of a dream and you'll feel awake and alert and like it's difficult to fall back asleep. And you should be really gentle with yourself and just remind, if you have to pee, go pee. But other than that, like go back to that breath. The best way to fall back asleep is slow, billowy breaths. And just know that as long as you're staying in bed, no matter what time it is, no matter how little sleep you've gotten so far, staying in bed and gently guiding yourself to breath is rest. And it's the closest to get your body to go back to sleep. But we're likely to have those disruptions. And I think on top of that, the daytime mental exhaustion that we have is going to make us more tired at night. And actually, we should have a very short window of time where we actually expect productivity out of ourselves and lower that bar for what kind of productivity needs, because we don't have to be sleeping to be like on downtime mode and kind of in a more relaxed mode, but really padding out, a good amount of time, a good 12-hour amount of time. This is a window where I could be working on getting ready to bed, maybe doing some things that are more relaxing, like evening meditations or like a yin 15-minute yoga before going through my evening sleep hygiene routines. And even when you're like, I got a stellar night's sleep, why am I tired by 9:30 in the morning? Like, it's unpredictable and we don't know. We could be gentle with ourselves and say, I'll keep treating my body with kindness. I will keep giving myself what I need right now. I would not escalate whatever sort of typical amount of caffeine you have done, because caffeine is a stimulant. It also can make anxiety worse. If you're like, oh, because I'm tired, just add more caffeine. So just be clear, if you've had any amount of caffeine, you have your morning coffee, don't, oh, well, the way I'm going to get through my day now is more and more and more coffee. That will actually, it stimulates the central nervous system like a stress response. And if you already have underlying anxiety, caffeine is going to make things worse, not better. But whatever you tolerated with typical caffeine, you know, is fine. But yeah, just it's kind of like, oh, here's something else that's uncomfortable and weird, but it makes sense. It's just the body responding to chaos.
Yep.
Cool. Does that complete our list of self-care
I think
items?
it does complete our list of self-care.
Well, this has been so awesome. I cannot thank you enough for like I said, when I was getting ready, I was like, how first of all, I was like, I was censoring myself. Don't ask. Don't ask. You're a jerk if you ask. I was telling myself. And I was like, she can say no if it's not a good time. But I know how helping professionals feel, and helpers want to help others, even in their tough times, even when things are hard and low. And I really, really thank you for finding the strength. And you did a beautiful job at all your help. But really, from the bottom of my heart, I know, and trust me, I will send you all the emails I get, but I know people are going to be like, wow, that was really helpful and really meaningful. And so, I really do appreciate your time and your sharing today.
Oh, and thank you for having me. If I can leave our listeners with anything is a couple of just breathe.
Mhm.
And there are no shoulds or should nots. at this time. Just be you. Just do you, be you, breathe, and don't put too many shoulds or shouldn'ts on yourself.
Right.
And we will all of us get through this together.
Right. My list of shoulds lately is I should take a shower because, I'm smelling ripe. There's maybe a should or should I not wear a bra today,
Right.
but I agree.
Not too much pressure, right?
Exactly. Well, how can folks find and follow and connect with you if they want to get to know you better?
So they can find me on Instagram at Lara Loverro. That's Lara. Last name is Loverro. Or they can find me on my website at laraloverro.com.
Awesome. And I'll make sure that people have links to that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for coming on to Body Kindness.
All right, Rebecca, thank you. Stay well.
And that's our show. The podcast is made possible with support from listeners. Please donate to help offset production costs at gofundme.com/bodykindness. And please rate and review the show when you have a moment. It really matters. Let's keep the conversations going on Facebook. Search Body Kindness and request to join the group for Body Kindness readers and listeners. Have a question for us to answer on a future episode? Visit bodykindnessbook.com/question. Body Kindness books and audiobooks are available wherever books are sold. To request a signed print copy, visit bodykindnessbook.com/order. For other questions about this podcast, please email info@bodykindnessbook.com.